Aha, success. Well, I'm glad that we have, in fact, a bit surprised that we have a fairly large audience, and most of you are sticking around, though some people are abandoning us at the moment. And I take that as an indication that you see the importance that these two documents, the Global Technical Strategy and what we're currently calling the Global Malaria Action Plan, the second Global Malaria Action Plan, will be important for all of us. Obviously, those of us engaged in malaria, but more widely, the health sector and other sectors as well, as I hope to explain. These documents will be critical for both sustaining and advancing control of malaria where that's necessary, but also for accelerating towards elimination where that is feasible. And I hope all of you, or most of you, heard Bill Gates in his talk last night. He's looking for malaria eradication in his lifetime. What does that mean? Well, we're optimistic that Bill has a long future to him. His father, Bill Gates, who is very active in the foundation and very beloved, is in his late 80s, which suggests that the family has very good genes. But even so, that is a finite period of time. So we're talking about malaria eradication in a finite period of time. Buckle down to work. I do want to highlight that what I'll talk about, hopefully briefly, is not my work. It's the work of a number of people, including our task force. My co-chair, Bernard Nolan, who is here, will be joining us, is with us on the panel and hopefully answer questions that you will pose. But also our consulting team that is actually supporting us and doing much of the writing at this time. That is the Swiss Tropical and Public Health Institute, led by Nick Lorenz, who unfortunately can't be here, and Deloitte, and we're very fortunate that Sally Stansfield is here with us leading that part of the team, and Vanessa Raclot, who is our focal point in the Rollback Malaria Partnership for this effort. But what I want to do is to highlight to you what we anticipate will be the second Global Malaria Action Plan, the name of which is actually likely to change, I think, as we develop the document and get closer to delivery. We've started with a extensive consultation process without a draft, in contrast to the Global Technical Strategy, which Pedro explained to you. We wanted to take advantage of regional consultations, which WHO, Global Malaria Program, was arranging with all of the WHO regions. And we did that, although that required a considerable amount of work and planning in order to optimize those meetings. So we had 6 regional consultations. We've done a number of community and country level consultations, and those are continuing now that we have a draft. We've done key informant interviews, a fairly extensive literature review, and as I will highlight in the next couple of slides, have a means for getting input from people on our website, on the RBM website. And I would encourage you, if you're interested, to go there, updates on what is happening, and we'll provide you a means of providing input into GMAP2. And for those who are interested, over the course of the next few months, certainly up till April of next year, that should be possible, and we would certainly want your input, particularly if you have good examples of what has worked or what has been particularly challenging that we can utilize in GMAP2. So this is just some pictures of our regional consultations. As you can see, we had a good number of people attending. I was fortunate to be at a couple of them. And these are some of the country consultations. This also gives you the website where you can go to get updates and to provide input. Now, what is GMAP going to be? Eric taught you why we're having this, about the process, but I wanted to give you a little bit of preview of some of the content. It is to highlight what work remains to be done. Obviously, the relationship to GMAP2, to GTS, which Pedro has highlighted, it will start off with a call to action. It will align us with where we are and where we need to go, particularly in light of the changing context, including the Sustainable Development Goals, though at this point those are not defined. As you may know, there are 17 overarching goals with a large number of targets, I think around 120, and malaria no longer has the prominence and probably will not have the prominence that it had with the Millennium Development Goals. One of the critical things that we want to do with GMAP2 is build a case for investment. We've called it sometimes a business case, but why should one invest in malaria? Why should our partners be investing in malaria? Why do we argue for other sectors to be investing in malaria? And that's something that will be critical and central to the document. Then we want to talk about what opportunities there are, efficiencies that we can gain with the resources available, how we actually implement what we want to do across partnerships and across different sectors, and then put people and communities at the center and talk about accountability for actually what needs to be done and what happens. There are currently envisioned 5 chapters in GMAP, and this slide talks about the high level of what each chapter will do, starting with a call to action. Chapter 1 will set the stage, talk about being community focused and expanding beyond other sectors, as Eric talked about in his presentation, based on the multi-sectoral action framework. Chapter 2 will highlight development, financial, environmental, social, cultural, and biological context that needs to be considered. We have been asked, and we've taken it very seriously, to look at malaria very broadly. So this is not just simply a technical issue. And I think we've been responsive to that, and I think the document will deal with that effectively, but hopefully not in a too vague and undiluted fashion. Chapter 3 will focus on building the case for investment, as I talked about. I'll highlight that a little bit more. Chapter 4 will pick up the themes of Chapter 2 in terms of what actually needs to be done and how different constituencies, both within the Rollback Malaria Partnership but outside, can take responsibility or should take responsibility for what happens. I should say that currently we're actually thinking about switching Chapter 2 and 3 so that 2 and 4 are closer together, and we actually talk about the investment case early on. Chapter 5 will be about monitoring, evaluation, and accountability, and has yet to be developed. The next few slides actually go into a little bit more detail. I won't read them about each of the chapters, just to give you a taste of what's there. But clearly the link with GTS is going to be important. Pedro talked about the common milestones target, an ultimate vision of a malaria-free world. And we want to talk about, as I indicated, how malaria fits into the Sustainable Development Goals. We will obviously have to change that as we get more clarity about the SDGs in the coming months. The next chapter, which may become Chapter 3, goes into more detail on these subjects again, wide-ranging issues, and the challenge for us has been to make this crisp and focused and not too diffuse, to have it actually be something that people can read and pick up quite quickly what are the key messages. And we're working hard to do that. I won't go into details here. Obviously, as Bill talked about last night, health system strengthening becomes a critical issue. We want to show how malaria can actually benefit health systems, but actually then can utilize stronger health systems for more effective work. Chapter 3 will talk about the investment case. I'm sorry, this slide is error. Forget about the first 3 bullets. Focus on the second 5 bullets there. This is currently how we're approaching this. Now, this is actually quite a challenge. Many of you may know that the economics, microeconomics and macroeconomics of malaria have been debated and studied for many, many years without a lot of consensus about what is right. But we think we can make a solid argument that there are very positive returns from investing in malaria. We won't come up with a new analysis, a new methodology, We'll be pointing to analysis that have been done, but the current version that I've seen actually makes me feel quite good. We just had a new version delivered. Bernard and I have it and are looking at it now. It came on Friday or Saturday morning, actually, for me. So I think this will be a very critical part of it, and certainly I would welcome your input, those who are interested, and especially those of you who have expertise. When it's available, please take a look at this, provide your feedback. While I recognize that we will not have consensus, I hope we'll be able to build a solid case that most people will believe. Certainly, I hope outside of the malaria community and even outside of the health sector. Then Chapter 4, as I indicated, will sort of be a call for action again. The purpose of this is to be quite focused, as specific as possible, even though we'll have a fairly broad agenda. And we'll be calling not just on the rollback malaria constituencies, which the current Global Malaria Action Plan is targeted at, but broader health communities and indeed outside the health sector, as Eric alluded to. And then finally, the chapter that still has to be developed is that of monitoring evaluation. One of the concerns I have is that we not build in the monitoring of a lot of things which require data which does not exist or for which we do not have ready access. This is not going to be something that calls for heavy investments in collecting new data. We just can't do that. So we have to find things that are pertinent and valid that will actually tell us what's going on directly or indirectly. And I do believe that's feasible as long as we're careful. Finally, at conclusion, in terms of what you can expect to see going forward, we had our first draft of GMAP in September, so you can tell this was after considerable consultation, which I think was beneficial. Actually, the task force saw sort of a third draft, not the second draft, really. And now we have really a fourth draft that came out at the end of October. And that is likely the draft which will go to the Rollback Malaria Board for its meeting in December in Thailand. And that will be an important milestone for us because we'll be able to get feedback from the rollback malaria community on that. We will then incorporate feedback from the board, and we anticipate that sometime in January or certainly very early next year, we will be going online, and that will be the point where we would want your input. And we will take as much as we can and utilize as much as we can, be it suggestions for modification, inclusion, and examples. Now, I do want to emphasize that I hope this document will be manageable in length. My goal is about 50 pages. Given what I've just talked about, that will be enormously challenging, but I think it's important that this be a readable and digestible document. Our objective is to have the penultimate version of GMAP2 ready for the Rollback Malaria Board, which is the body that will approve it in May. It'll actually need to be ready in April, and then they will approve it, and we will make any final changes after the meeting in mid-May, which occurs just before the World Health Assembly, which is when the global technical strategy will be reviewed and adopted or approved by the Assembly. And then finally, we anticipate that there will be a joint launch of the Global Technical Strategy and GMAP2 in the second half of 2015. And that will be very challenging because it's also going to be the time when the Sustainable Development Goals will be launched. And how we position malaria with relation to that, that is something that we need to consider very carefully. So that's my summary. Pedro, do we have another speaker at this point? We do, don't we? So I'll turn it over to you. Thank you very much. And we'll hopefully have a chance to answer your questions as we move forward.